Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to Today in Bitcoin. Today is April the 26th, 2017, and Andy Hoffman of Miles Franklin Precious Metals is back on the show today. You all wanted to see him. He wants to see you. He is the precious metals guy who actually took a liking to Bitcoin before anyone else did in the precious metals world, and we are so proud of him. Andy, welcome back to the show.
My pleasure to be here. I think this is one of the greatest shows out there in one of the smallest spaces, and it's amazing the fact that after all that Bitcoin has done, that the best shows in the Bitcoin network have such tiny subscriptions, and that just shows you how early we are in the game.
Yeah, but I mean, I love the 5,200 people who subscribe to this. It's a growing thing. We know it's going to get bigger. And I thank you for being on the show, because every time you're on the show, you bring in new subscribers, people who might have not heard about Bitcoin before, but they're just precious metals people. When they see what Andy Hoffman's talking about Bitcoin, what's this Litecoin? They get interested. So we all love that you're in our space. And I got to say, and we're going to get into some in-depth topics here with Andy. Of all of my guests that are from, outside of the Bitcoin space or thought of traditionally as being, because he's really in the Bitcoin space, he is the most knowledgeable about Bitcoin by far. I mean, and that's no offense to anybody else, but he is really learning. I mean, he knows a lot about Bitcoin now. He takes it very seriously. So we're going to get hardcore into that in a second. But I did want to mention stuff from yesterday's show, and this actually ties into today's show a little bit. In yesterday's show, everyone saw I was in a big rush. And I actually was supposed to talk about a tweet by the great Charlie Lee from Litecoin fame about how close Segwit is over there. And I actually linked to that again, his tweet below. So check out the notes section below. It actually is currently the notes section from yesterday's show. I'm going to have to alter it. But it's important stuff. And so the Litecoin Segwit is progressing very, very nicely. He gives his tweet actually explains a lot about it. So I had forgotten to mention that yesterday, but I did link to it below. So that's why you got to check out the notes section below, because sometimes I even forget what I'm supposed to say. Also, our great friends at Crypto HW Wallet got me this awesome shirt. And you can get this free shirt from them if you use them. And Andy actually is a big fan of the Trezor, and he knows how important storage is. These guys, and their link is below, they take care of all your storage stuff. You can get a Trezor there. You can get all sorts of stuff there. We're going to talk about them in another show, but I wanted to mention them. Andy, how is your Trezor anyway? I mean, you sleep well at night because of it, right?
Yes, and in fact, it's because of you I found out about the Trezor. Look, in my business in precious metals, just as important as the marketing of metals and getting people to protect themselves with that kind of financial insurance is how to store it. So we spend as much time with our storage options, like our Brinks Canada options, our private safety deposit box options, all those kind of things. And when it comes to Bitcoin, it's almost more imperative to understand the risks of what could happen to your I say your metal, to your Bitcoins if you don't properly store them. And I think Trezor is not only one of the most amazing inventions of our time, but it makes you, it's kind of like I tell people with gold and silver. If the way to understand how valuable gold and silver is to put in one hand a quarter, which feels like a feather, and the other hand put in a silver gold coin, you realize how valuable it is. With Bitcoin, the way to understand how valuable it is to have, for instance, a Trezor and either send or receive Bitcoin from it, and then you understand how miraculous this technology is.
Yeah, it is. I was working with someone last night, and he just to have it in front of him, it gave him this new perspective of when it was fully operational. Just like it's there, my Bitcoin is there on this little thing. And then you're sending it back and forth. You see how easy it is. It brings you into this whole new realm, and you feel better about it. So hey, enough of talking about the Trezor. And again, it's not. There's other storage devices also. Those guys linked to below, they sell them also. Let's talk about though. I brought up Charlie Lee and I brought up Litecoin segregated witness. So it's real close over there. This is putting the pressure on Bitcoin to get the job done. We're seeing the price jump up here now with Bitcoin. We're like basically at an all-time high today. I think we can all kind of agree on that. And I think that the market is feeling confident. And also the market is also reacting perhaps that the Winklevoss ETF is about to be looked at again. So all those things I just threw out there. What do you want to say about all that? That was just a mouthful I just talked about.
Right. Well, first of all, yeah, I saw that article about the Winklevoss thing being re-looked at by the SEC, and we, both of us and most of the people in our community thought there was no chance there'd be an ETF in the beginning because it doesn't suit the government's needs. The last thing they want is the excitement around it, because we know it'll get the price going. We know it'll bring Wall Street venture capital in, which will only build innovation and speed of acceleration and adoption. But that said, the fact that they're reconsidering it, and they could have easily said no, I mean, we said no, makes me think that perhaps the government is thinking, and this will get us to our next topic, that perhaps we need to try to control this a little more. Because if we let this run wild, look, we said no to the ETF, and look what the price did. I mean, Roger Ver tried to knock the price down, and look what the price did. Maybe they should take a look, though, at what the Chinese government tried to do and what the price did. The fact is, I think that the government is thinking like, well, we created the COMEX to manipulate gold futures. Well, maybe if we create this, we can, allow people to short it, and that'll make the price go down. And I think what they're realizing is they're poking a hornet's nest, because if they try to get involved in Bitcoin by improving this trust, it's going to be a lot more positive for growth and adoption of Bitcoin than they think it will be. I think it will be a tragic disaster at this point if they allow it, and it will make the price double.
Oh wow! Oh well, we'll see. I think I personally, I don't think it's going to get approved again. I don't see how it is. I maybe they're playing the games with the Winklevosses. I don't. Hey, it's perhaps it's boosting up the price right now, though. Perhaps that's that's what's going on right now. So do you think this Litecoin Segwit thing is a promising development? Do you think this is going to get Segwit going on Bitcoin? And we spoke last time. I know you are a supporter of Bitcoin Segwit. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I just want to put that out.
You can put them there. I think it's look, the thing that I deal with in my markets, and everyone could listen to my tone-based crypto scam where I talk about gold manipulation. I mean, I've been talking about market manipulation of all kinds for 15 years, particularly in gold and silver. And the thing that's so exciting about Bitcoin, among other things, is that for the most part, it's not a manipulatable market. There's just not that much supply out there. There's very little shorting even allowed, and governments don't understand it. So when you see the market move, in gold and silver, it's 90% due to rigging, but in Bitcoin, it's 90+% due to actual market forces, which is, I'm a financial analyst by trade, and that's what I was trained to understand. So it's nice to see a market that actually trades as such. And the reason it's so volatile, of course, is because A, it's a brand new technology, and B, it's very thin. There's just not much that Bitcoin out there. So, as pertains to, what's the question again about I'm losing my track.
The segregated witness.
Segwit, right. So clearly the whole thing with Bitcoin Unlimited, and the same thing happened with Bitcoin Classic and Bitcoin XT and Mike Hearn, and you name all these things. Whenever these things come out and start the FUD, the ultimate arbiter of whether these guys are right or not is the market. And the same thing goes with the Chinese capital controls. They came in, they thought that they could jawbone the market down or scare people. And what did it do? It just created more adoption on local Bitcoins and using other exchanges around the world. In fact, the exchange that does the best during times of crisis is BTCE, because everyone migrates to the one that they know no government's ever going to touch, because it's in the middle of nowhere.
That's an excellent point about BTCE.
During both the whole Roger Ver thing and the ETF, when they said no, BTCE was much bigger premium. Now it's a discount because no one's worried. But again, it's the market is the ultimate arbiter, and I think of course, I'm not technical. Neither are you. We're not software engineers. But it's pretty clear that the soft fork is desired by the market. That Bitcoin Unlimited or China Coin is completely and utterly discredited, and the market desperately wants it. And good for Charlie Lee, because I think when history is written, he is going to be seen as a warrior that helped the cause more than any single person really that I can think of in this whole space in recent years, because by pushing through Segwit and getting people to understand, especially when it actually happens in the next few days, that it works. It's going to drive out all of the hard fork fears forever, and it's going to create a level of adoption speed that we haven't seen even in recent years.
I like that shout out to Charlie Lee. Everyone, I love Charlie Lee too, man. He is a hero. Pound that like button, people. If you think Charlie Lee is definitely the hero of this month, we have to say that. I mean, totally awesome. Now, speaking of Charlie Lee, he's one of the guys who says, and well, I don't want to put words in his mouth again, but Litecoin is the silver to Bitcoin's gold. Talk about that a little bit. You're a gold and silver guy. What do you think about the Litecoin Bitcoin ratio, gold silver ratio? And someone also in the chat just said, Andy, silver or Bitcoin? So
silver or Bitcoin. Yeah. Look, I'll answer that one separately. But again, everyone knows my article, Bitcoin and Precious Metals, Twin Destroyers of the Fiat Regime. They have different risk reward profiles, but they're definitely the same. You're investing in the same kind of thing. But anyway, as to the question about, I brought that up when we were talking beforehand about the, Charlie Lee calling Litecoin silver to Bitcoin's gold, which again, I don't know that much about Litecoin. It would seem to me from what I see that it seems to have a lot of the properties of Bitcoin, just it's way behind in network effect, and it really can never get there unless Bitcoin, completely collapse, which isn't going to happen. And I also looked, you look at the prices, and right now, from a silver gold ratio, Bitcoin, I mean, gold is $12.60, silver is $17, Bitcoin is $1,400, and Litecoin is $15. So you almost have the same kind of gold silver ratio. I'm not saying it's going to stay that way, but look, there's old people saying trashing altcoins. Altcoins can never go anywhere. It's all Bitcoin, Bitcoin maximalist. And I know even Tone Vays wouldn't agree with that completely. The fact is, as I've said last time, there's going to be many cryptocurrencies. This is going to be, to me, the biggest growth industry, I'd say, of our lifetimes. Yeah, but it's really the same as the internet. It's going to be the biggest growth industry since the internet. There's going to be thousands of companies. Like in the internet, a handful of them are going to be leaders. The majority of them are going to be failures. And only one or two can be, I mean, when you look at the whole tech thing from back in 2000, and that excludes, Microsoft and Cisco, which were not .com companies, they just capitalized it. But as far as internet companies, how many have survived to be giants? Amazon, Facebook, which came afterward, I guess eBay, which is kind of being diminished by other products right now. And so not many. So there's going to be only a handful of winners, but there's going to be plenty of other companies like eBay that do very well and make a lot of money for people. And there's definitely going to be a need to diversify. There's a reason they call silver poor man's gold, because it has a lot of has the same characteristics as gold. It's just cheaper, and it's not used by the same client base, let's say. The gold is for the richest people, and the silver has been for the less rich people that can't afford gold. So I think there's definitely going to be room for silver to Bitcoin's gold. I'm not saying it's going to be Litecoin, but if there's any one, and as you know, I only invest in physical gold and silver, and I only invest in Bitcoin. But if there was one in that entire universe I'd even consider, it would be Litecoin, because I think it's the most like silver is to Bitcoin's gold.
Yes, that is an interesting, good point there. They are there. You can make those comparisons that just as gold and silver are similar, that the Litecoin to Bitcoin is, and the ratio and all of that stuff. Now, a lot of people worry about the Bitcoin dominance chart, that Bitcoin is only 66% of the market, yet it's only 66% of the market, but we're experiencing an all-time high. So it seems like everyone can be happy. The altcoin people can be happy, and the Bitcoin people can be happy. I think perhaps this dominance chart is being blown way out of proportion, but at the same time, if Segwit is approved, do you see a lot of altcoin money flowing back into Bitcoin?
Well, the thing is, the only time that dominance chart really mattered was, for instance, during the whole scaling scare. because at that point you could absolutely say that people are speculating that Bitcoin is going to lose its place as the leader. And yes, of course, because of the fact that almost all altcoins have to be bought with Bitcoin, like on Shapeshift or at Coinbase. You can't just go to Litecoin Coinbase or Dash Coinbase. You have to buy it with Bitcoin. That's exactly what people are doing. And it's kind of like the whole Bitfinex thing. If you can't take your cash out, well, you buy the only thing you can buy to get it out. It's Bitcoin. And so a lot of these people who are selling the Bitcoin, like, well, I guess I'll buy Ethereum because I can buy it. So I don't think that matters at any time other than during a scare like that, which is over. And I think, again, I don't think that Bitcoin is going to maintain 90% dominance. I think there's going to be huge amounts of innovation and other companies that come around. But the fact is that they're all going to go up. And by the way, like you said, when Segwit is adopted, and it's already starting to be discounted by the market, there's going to be a big jump in Bitcoin dominance, because that's the big issue facing the big leader.
Talk about what is going on at Bitfinex. You have an opinion on that, don't you? What's your take? What's your take?
Yeah, and again, I know as much as you. So, but this is the perfect example of governments thinking that they can control things and causing problems. Like the Chinese, they thought that they could slow down Bitcoin with their regulatory procedures back in January, when the price got to maybe 1150 here, but it got to 1400 in China. And then when the price started to go up, then they came in a month later and they said, we're going to do even more stuff. And now the price has gone up again. They kind of hinted that they would be done by now, but they're kind of being quiet because they think that if we just prevent Chinese exchanges from allowing people to buy Bitcoin or withdraw Bitcoin, it's going to keep the price down. And what has happened? The price is going up because around the world, even the Chinese, you think the Chinese can't figure out ways to use local Bitcoins or other ways? And as we know, the Chinese are only one part of the world. There's many other people in the world that are buying Bitcoin from many other sources. So what's going on here is, in the case of Wells Fargo, they're not a government entity, but they are clearly so scared that the governments, like of the U.S., they're thinking, well, the U.S. government is going to get pretty scared of Bitcoin soon because it's against our fiat regime, and we're taking all of these wires in and out of Bitcoin, so they're going to accuse us of money laundering soon. So we're just going to disallow these wires, which in turn, and I don't know the relationship with Taiwanese banks, but like Tonebase says, they'll do it in every country. I mean, they do it in Taiwan. They'll certainly do it here at some point. Coinbase could have the very same problem tomorrow, and Bitstamp or Kraken in Europe. But I mean, all these things can happen at any time. So, but the fact is, all it's doing is creating demand. Because look, you would think if this is such a big deal that Bitfinex, the price would crash, right? But it's not, because the people are buying Bitcoin and they're withdrawing it. And what are they doing? Are they selling it? No, they're just keeping it somewhere else, like on their trezors.
So basically, if a government decides to shut down a major exchange, and if they that it'll be one less place for the world to buy, but the demand is going to stay the same and perhaps even increase. Thus, there'll be less places to buy your Bitcoin from. Thus, the price will go up. That's
exactly. Look, the article that you linked to that I wrote yesterday, the future of money and wealth storage, and everyone should read it. It's talking about all these issues. And again, it's the same thing. The precious metal market is so unbelievably rigged by paper naked shorting, and has been for so long, that at some point it's going to blow up the exchanges. So it's a different reasoning, but the point is that it's going to be disintermediation. For one, people are going to stop using the exchanges because they are just getting ripped off. They're losing money by trading these paper derivatives. And at some point, the paper exchanges are going to run out of actual physical gold and silver to deliver. And so people are going to have to go to the black markets, which is exactly what's going on in India right now. They created the tariffs, now the cash ban. So what are people doing? As they said in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. Well, the demand finds a way to the black markets. And so Bitcoin is even it's even more conducive to be a black market good because it's computers. I mean, you don't even have to go, transport it with a truck. You literally could just go computer to computer. You can make an appointment anonymously. You can, all these kind of things. So the more that the governments, it's kind of like the Chinese FUD statements had less and less effect. What's going to be an exponentially less effect every time a government tries to do something. And trust me, when they do shut down Coinbase, which they will do at some point, and people realize, well, this was the big one where all the wealthy Americans are buying, and they realize how short-lived the decline will be as Americans and other Westerners realize that there are so many other ways to find Bitcoin. And then, like Tonebase talks about, then you start to see the real prices in the black markets make the price go even higher.
Yeah. Great tying in what Tone was saying before about the real price out there, and that, yeah, I mean, if people are willing to pay $1,400 right now on Bitfinex, then that tells you a lot. It's the real price. Everyone, pound that like button. We have like 120 live viewers now. This is wild. Okay, I've got a question about ICOs that I thought of, because yesterday I mentioned on the show, and I hope people were paying close attention, how Ethereum Classic, just like with Ethereum, you're going to be able to do ICOs, set up ICOs on Ethereum Classic. And lo and behold, now all of a sudden Ethereum Classic is pumping. So that's a reason people should watch this show, because you get some news in advance. And I don't know why Ethereum Classic is pumping, but it probably has something to do with that this ICO thing. What do you think about ICOs? I mean, they're obviously risky. They obviously can be scam filled. But they're obviously helping the price of Ethereum and perhaps Ethereum Classic.
Well, the thing with Ethereum is, let's face it, for all its issues, you forget, Litecoin is more related to Bitcoin and just the nature of the product. But, I mean, the true silver to Bitcoin's gold is Ethereum, because it's so much bigger. I mean, it has a huge following. It even has a lot of Wall Street and venture capital following right now. It doesn't even matter whether the product has the use cases yet other than these ICOs. It's clearly a big phenomenon, Ethereum, and I would be really surprised, unless they do something extremely stupid, if they all of a sudden lost that perch as the #2 coin. And you said many times that Ethereum Classic is the Bitcoiners' Ethereum, and I think that's the biggest reason it's going up. I mean, yeah, I guess you have the ICOs or whatever you're talking about, but the fact is, people realize that if you have a major coin that has a coin limit, meaning they can't inflate it to infinity, that's what I would be into. I'm looking for things that they can't inflate to infinity. Look at my job, look at my investments, my life. I'm in precious metals. All I care about is ways to hedge myself against inflation. And if Ethereum Classic clearly has a cap like Bitcoin does on the amount of issuance, and they're not going to be doing any hard forks, and I doubt they are, because I don't think there's really many other use cases for Ethereum Classic other than storage of value. Well, that's a good reason to own it if you're into altcoins. But as for ICOs, of course, it's just like the internet bubbles. It's just what we're talking about. There's going to be thousands. There already are thousands of companies that are useless and worthless, that are pump and dumps. They're there solely to capitalize. Again, I've said this a year ago. I said this is going to be the biggest bull market in history. I mean, it's going to be rivaled by gold and silver, but for different reasons. Because Bitcoin, it's going to be about adoption. Gold and silver, it's going to be about the breaking of a cartel that has been holding prices well below where they should be. And I think when that eventually occurs, because of the fiat currency system losing confidence, it's going to be a dramatic increase. But as an industry, because gold and silver industry is what it is, but as an industry, the Bitcoin industry will be the biggest, the crypto will be the biggest growth industry of our lifetimes. And there's going to be 95% of the companies are going to be worthless and or scams. And within them, there might be a few of them that turn out to be something real.
At the beginning of the show, you mentioned how this is a growing space. And right now, the media that's covering this space it's quite small. There's 5,000, 5,200 subscribers to this channel here. It's a pretty good channel. But when you're talking in the bigger world of gold and silver, we've got tremendous channels out there and tremendous subscriptions. What do you think that with some of these altcoins out there, and some of these channels here, and this has been brought up by viewers, and I don't know what to think. And since you're an outsider, maybe you're an insider outsider, whatever. Do you think a show like this could help the price of an altcoin? An appearance on a little show like this could sway a market of a second or third tier altcoin? Are things that small and things that new in this world?
Absolutely. You have to be mindful of your role, because again, look, I've been doing this for 15 years and I've been a personality. I mean, I've been at Miles Franklin 5.5 years, but I've been talking publicly about this stuff for 10 to 15 years now. So now, I mean, I'm in a market where the price has been kind of stabilized for a long time. It hasn't been allowed to have a big run for years and years. But when I do a typical podcast, I get 30,000, 50,000, 100,000. I often get 100,000. In fact, I did a viral one last month, which had 600,000 views. And this is a market that hasn't been going anywhere because the price has been held down. So when I look at you or the crypto network, the Bitcoin News, the Bitcoin Weekly with the other one, and some of the other ones, I mean, there's some fantastic people out there getting no views. I'm in shock. I mean, the mainstream is so fixated on like the stock market that they don't realize that Bitcoin has been the biggest bull market for years and years and years. They're still not looking at these things. And when I look at the space and I realize there's only a handful of regular shows out there. I'm not talking about all the one-off podcasts, just your show and basically the World Crypto Network. There's not much else out there. To see 5,000 subscribers, because there's going to come a point probably in the near future when you're getting 50 to 100,000 per day, because people are trying to. It's not even just because the price is going up. They need to learn about it. I mean, gold. People listen to me. It's not like they need to learn much about gold. I'm trying to give. I'm always giving incremental information about what I see out there, but it's a pretty well understood world, let alone the stock market. Whereas this is a completely brand new thing that no one understands, and yet still people have no interest in trying to learn about it. So I think it's going to have a great impact of the people that maintain, that become personalities that are well known. And also you'll have a responsibility, because there's going to be a lot of people, I see you had like the Decred and this, it's great, you're educating, but these kind of things can certainly become influential, because when you're in a hot bull market, people are just looking for a catalyst to buy things, whether they understand the product or not.
Wow. If a channel like this gets, 10X's in subscribers, if we all of a sudden have 50,000 here, the Bitcoin price will be going up. I mean, obviously that something will have happened to get to increase mainstream interest. So, hey, I want 50,000 subscribers because I think it's great, but I also want it because I know by that point, I mean, obviously the Bitcoin price.
And you know what the biggest thing that will make that happen? It goes the same thing for me with the numbers I'm talking about. I'm going to get a lot higher numbers too, because the powers that be have not allowed a crisis of any kind in so long. I mean, it's amazing, because you think of how much worse the world is since the 2008 crisis, and we got 3 or 4 times more debt. We have all these the political regimes are turning over, the economy's falling apart, currencies are crashing, but because they've commandeered the main markets like the stock markets, and they monetize all the bonds and they suppress precious metals, people they're just not focused on the reality of what's going on around them. But when you have the slightest bit of crisis, and you're going to have one, I mean, this is the biggest stock, bond, real estate bubble of all time, you're going to have a crisis. And when you have a crisis, people are going to be flocking to safe havens. And it's not going to be treasury bonds, which are also in the biggest bubble ever. It's going to be alternative currencies. And since Bitcoin is such a tiny, tiny little market, which makes the tiny, tiny little silver market look big, you're going to see a disproportionate amount of people coming to A, buy, and B, learn. So I think there's going to be an exponential growth in participation by the alternative media in the crypto space.
That's going to be excellent. Hey, you were talking about personalities. I wanted to give a shout out. Vortex, Vortex from the World Crypto Network. He's actually in the chat right now. So there's one of your personalities. It's such a small space that one of the big personalities just hanging out in the chat, watching this show, interested in you, no doubt about it.
I'll shout out to them too, because again, I spend most of my learning time on crypto right now, because let's face it, I know all there is to know about gold. It doesn't take me much to absorb the new information, but I'm constantly trying to absorb in crypto. And on that note, I will say that Vortex, Thomas, what's the man?
Thomas Hunt, yeah.
Thomas Hunt, Vortex, and Tone and yourself are my 4 primary sources of information. I think it's tireless, the work that particularly Thomas and Vortex have done to get great personalities onto their shows to talk about things. And some of them get the technical details across, and some of them speak in plain English, but invaluable to the growth of this community. So shout out from me too.
Yeah, I love the speaking in plain English, but hey, it's technical stuff too. There's some people who love the technical stuff, so it's the best of both worlds. All those people you're talking about, and of course, Tone is doing a great job, and Tone had you on the show too. So I mean, there's a mix and match going on. It's exciting. I mean, I love that everyone's friends too. It's kind of cool. It's not like a war out there or anything like that. I want to, you bring up crisis, and I'm not a crisis kind of guy. You probably think, oh, Adam's overly positive sometimes. I guess, I try to be positive, but I wanted to bring up North Korea actually, because there's a lot of people that are worried that the United States might get into a conflict with North Korea. And obviously, God forbid that happens, but that would help the price of gold. That would help the price of all sorts of things that we talk about, especially that you talk about and everything. So we can talk about that scenario, but I also wanted to talk about the leader of North Korea. I feel all this recent news, his days are numbered. I really feel like we are about to live through a renaissance over there. It's going to finally end. The horrible situation is going to finally end. So for me, I look at it as a positive. I don't want there to be a nuke going off, okay? And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I say whatever happens, happens. But once it happens, there's going to be some great stuff going on in North Korea. And maybe they're not going to have a currency. They're going to either adopt the dollar. They're either going to get gold in there. Maybe they're going to do some Bitcoin stuff. Maybe us as entrepreneurs are going to have to run into North Korea and do some Bitcoin stuff. But it's not like the same as like going into Iraq, after there's been a war where, as an American, it's dangerous. North Korea is based around the worship of a lead. It's not a religion, it's worship. And they will quickly see that the emperor has no clothes once he's dead and hanging in the street and everything, and that they got to be like their neighbors to the south. It won't be religious based. It'll be safe. So I'm rambling on a little bit about this, but what are your thoughts on North Korea? Is there opportunity? Do you think there is going to be a war? What do you see gold and silver and Bitcoin and the dollar playing a role over there?
Well, I have several comments, and as you know, and you just brought up, I do think you're over optimistic. You're in a secular place in the world where you're focused on Bitcoin, which is doing very well, and so you kind of see the world in the prism of Bitcoin, which is doing very well. But think about where you have traveled your last 3 trips. South Africa, massive crisis. Portugal is one of the pigs which almost went bankrupt a few years ago and shortly will go bankrupt. And now you're going to Cyprus, okay? Well, so which is the poster child of financial crisis, which by the way is still going on today. So, and then of course you're talking about all these other poor South African countries like Zimbabwe, the poster child of hyperinflation. So believe me, the majority of the world is in very bad shape financially, and that's why you're seeing currencies crash, and that's why you're seeing Donald Trump get elected, and hopefully Marine Le Pen could fight through the propaganda to get elected, and why the Brexit occurred. All these kinds of things are going on around the world, and it's a big reason why Bitcoin was born, and it's a big reason why gold and silver's 5,000-year usage of stores of values are stronger than ever. But what you're talking about in North Korea is kind of the Venezuela thing, where in the absence of a society, there is going to be a need to start all over again, and I assure you it won't be using anything related to the dollar. So what will they use? The Chinese yuan, gold, whatever. The point is, that kind of society is ripe for the usage of cryptocurrency. And I'm not sure if you even saw the article yet. I sent it to you early this morning. You probably saw it. I couldn't believe this. It says the United Nations has this program going on where they're sending to thousands of people in Africa, charity, and they figure if they do it they're using Bitcoin because it's anonymous, and therefore it's much easier to do without causing jealousy, and it's cheaper. And I'm going, oh my God, this is a major world government agency using Bitcoin not for propaganda purposes, because they actually realize how much it works. And the same thing is going to happen in places like Venezuela, and God forbid if something happens in North Korea, that's truly tragic. It will happen there too. Because again, like I said in the beginning, once you use your Trezor or any other way to send and receive Bitcoin, you realize not only how easy and cheap it is, but how you can avoid. It's not you can avoid, is how it avoids all of the pitfalls that government put in front of you, and you could just simply transact, even in the absence of society. All you have to do is have a computer.
Yeah, that's true. All you got to do is have a computer. Well, speaking, I want you to bring up, we were talking, I did see that article about the United Nations thing because you emailed it. I haven't read the whole thing, but I want to quickly, well, not quickly, what's going on with Miles Franklin? Tell us some Miles Franklin news, because you and I were talking off air about Miles Franklin.
Yes. Okay. And again, as I said back in my initial article, Precious Metals and Bitcoin, the Twin Destroyers of Fiat Regime, that was in May of last year. And then I've written several others. There's one called Why Bitcoin Will Make Gold and Silver Go Up, and then Same as It Ever Was, Bitcoin and Precious Metals in a Changing World, and then the one I wrote yesterday. So I've written a lot about how these are complementary assets, unlike some of the, pardon my French, idiots on both sides of the coin. The Bitcoin people who think that precious metals are useless, and the precious metal people who think that Bitcoin is useless. Look, they're fighting the same fight, and people buy them for the same reasons. And right now, in Bitcoin's case, the primary reason you buy it is for that same reason, to protect your wealth. So I think in time, you're going to see people going back and forth between the two, just as they go back and forth between gold and silver and other safe haven assets. And I believe that especially if there are going to be times where, let's say Bitcoin has this huge spike at the same time that gold is being knocked down. Well, maybe someone will say, hey, maybe I'll sell a little Bitcoin and buy some gold with it. And vice versa. There might be a time where the cartel bursts and gold explodes, and someone says, well, maybe I'll take some of these profits and buy some Bitcoin. So to that end, Bitcoin, I've been working for the past year with Miles Franklin, with our distributors and the tech people. And I believe today's Wednesday. I think on Friday we'll be up and running, where we'll be able to accept Bitcoin as payment for precious metals. And I want to give a shout out also to my good friend Stephen McCaskill, who started a company called the Magi Metals here in Denver, which was, I believe, the biggest Bitcoin accepting precious metal company until he sold it a few years ago. And he's been instrumental in helping me to understand that you could do this, and he's part of the whole Bitcoin organization right now. And so again, in the next few days, and you'll see an article, I'll be writing an article that's saying about procedurally how you do it. You'll be able to buy precious metals with Bitcoin.
Okay, that is big news, people. That is awesome, because people have asked about this before. And so Miles Franklin, hey man, they're stepping up to the plate. They're not scared. They're not scared of Bitcoin. They're trying to make it complimentary here. So I give them all the credit in the world, because there's a lot of people involved in precious metals that are just like, they try to run away from Bitcoin. And you guys are, you're not running away. It's accepting it. It's here. Hey, let's use it to our benefit. Let's use it. And hey, it'll endear people, because there's a big crossover between precious metals and Bitcoin. So hey, the Bitcoin people who like precious metals are going to like, hey, Miles Franklin, they like Bitcoin. That's cool. And now you're making it easy. It's great.
And the article that I wrote, I think it was in December. I think I wrote it on Christmas Day. So it was just before the big Bitcoin surge. It was called Why Bitcoin Will Make Gold and Silver Go Up. My point was that, there's a lot of focus in the precious metal world about, well, gold is money, and when the fiat system goes down, there'll be a gold standard again and all that stuff. And I've been saying for years, I wrote 3 years ago, is gold money? Who cares? Because I don't own gold and silver, because I think that there's going to be a gold standard. My point being that governments have destroyed every gold standard for the same reason they've destroyed every fiat regime standard, by corruption, by stealing the gold, lying about how much they have, encumbering it. No, the money of the future is going to be crypto, because it's decentralized. Because after this current largest, as I call it, the biggest, most destructive fiat Ponzi scheme ever implodes, no one will ever trust governments again to issue currency, whether it's gold-backed or not. They're going to embrace cryptocurrency as money going forward. And as Bitcoin explodes higher in adoption and price, it's going to draw the attention of governments, which currently now spend all of their time suppressing gold and silver because they consider it their primary threat. They're going to start trying to attack Bitcoin and forget about gold and silver, because Bitcoin is going to be perceived as the greater monetary threat. And as I said earlier in the call, they're going to find that it's far more difficult to stop Bitcoin than it is to stop gold and silver, because it's ubiquitous, it's over the internet, it's decentralized, all that kind of stuff. And as they spend more time worrying about the bigger threat, it's going to put more pressure on the gold cartel to blow up, which is already on fumes because there's so little physical gold and silver out there. So I think, Bitcoin is gold and silver's best friend. And while at the moment we're watching gold and silver kind of be held in place while Bitcoin surges, in time there's going to be a lot more attention to go to Bitcoin, and it's going to enable gold and silver to break out as well. So I encourage everyone to own a little of each. Of course, I own a lot more gold and silver than I do Bitcoin, simply because they have a longer history of stability, and there's a lot more risks in the near term. But I do own a healthy amount of Bitcoin, and I have no intention of selling it anytime soon.
I've got a question from the great Polyag over in the chat. By the way, chatters, we got 150 of you over there, so pound that like button. Here's the question. I don't know if you can answer it or not. If you exchange gold for silver, do you need to pay taxes, or is it considered a tax-free like-kind exchange? And if so, do you think the same applies to altcoins and Bitcoins? Thanks.
Yes, there's some complex tax things here, and you have to obviously ask your accountant. But we have plenty of this. Every year people do these things. There is no wash sale rule in gold and silver. So if you sell it and then buy it back, you don't have the same wash sale. You can take the gain. I mean, you could sell it. You can make an exchange today, sell gold eagles and buy gold maples, and you're allowed to do that. But you do, of course, have to pay taxes. You pay taxes on capital gains. I mean, it's just that simple. As far as altcoins, why would it be any different? Look, if you sell anything, I mean, if I sold gold maples and bought gold eagles with it, I would think that would not be considered a capital gain. That's just that's a like for like. But selling gold to buy silver, I mean, and I should know this because we get asked all the time. The thing is, there's no definite rule, but I would make the assumption, unless your accountant tells you otherwise, that. I mean, that's what I've done. If I've sold any gold or silver, I've taken the capital gains or losses. And altcoins would be the same. I mean, well, they're definitely not like, if gold and silver are different, certainly Dash and Monero are different.
Nice thrown in Dash and Monero there. You got a lot of people excited on that one. I want to know, people are talking about 2020, the year 2020 in the chat. I'm the big buy and hold. Don't sell any of your Bitcoin until 2020. Are you holding on until 2020? Definitely. Do you have a strong hand until 2020? Is that a year you think of for Bitcoin also? And what do you think the price is going to be in 2020? Someone wondered.
Well, you asked me that last time, and I said five digits. But my point is, look, the only thing that I truly am scared of in Bitcoin was the hard fork, because that would break my primary thesis, which I just mentioned before, of there being a set limit. Because and that's why Roger Ver is an idiot, because among all the other things that he's talking about, because the bad code and the confusion and the fact that all kinds of bad things can happen, the simple fact of doing a hard fork is going to double the amount of Bitcoin. You can say all you want about when it'll die and when it won't. No, Ethereum Classic didn't die. There's twice as much Ethereum, and there'll be twice as much Bitcoin. So if you tell me that there's going to be no hard fork and that there will still be in 2020 17 or 16 million coins out there, I will tell you, my goal is not to hold it till 2020. My goal is to hold it till I die, or I pass it on to my daughter, or I need to buy something big with it, like a yacht or something like that. Because the 2020 halving is a big deal, because it's going to be, and we're talking about, we already have a tight supply, and now you're going to have half the supply. So again, barring something like the hard fork breaking it in two, I can't see how we wouldn't be 10,000 or more. Frankly, 2020 is a long time in technology world. It could be a lot more than that.
Okay, so yes, I did ask Andy. Every time people want to know price predictions. People love price predictions. So he said 5 digits last time. He said 5 digits this time. Hey, he sticks to it. And hopefully Andy and I will be on the yacht in 2020. Chilling out. We'll do a broadcast of the show then.
Again, it's like you talk about Bitcoin, you hold it as your savings, right?
Yes.
That's how I hold my gold and silver. That's my savings. In fact, I have almost no cash anymore because I don't trust banks. I consider savings to be things that have either a history of storing value, like gold and silver, or what I believe will preserve value. So I don't think in terms of when will I sell it. I mean, I'll sell it when I think that there's a better alternative at a cheaper price. But let's say in 2020, assuming nothing horrible happened to Bitcoin, what's going to be a better alternative? There's gold, silver, and now Bitcoin. I really doubt once in a lifetime, once in a multi-generational thing like Bitcoin, there's not going to be another one by 2020 to take its place.
So yes, savings, people, savings. It's a lost art here in the United States. Andy saves, I save. It's easy to do. Just consider the Bitcoin your savings. Just don't touch it, and in the long run, you'll be happy. So let's go back to that question someone had before: silver or Bitcoin?
Right, completely different things, but fighting the same fight. Because, well, look, in the case of silver, you're buying it only because of a storage value, and in Bitcoin's case, you're buying it as a storage of value with the let's call it the optionality that it could become the future money of the world. That'll take a lot longer time. The storage of value thing is pretty much already there. You don't hard fork it; it's already got gold's and silver's properties. But the money thing will take a long time. I mean, to become widespread adoption, that could take decades, maybe a lot less, but who knows? But the fact is, and of course, when you own silver, look, the price of silver is governed by mining economics. It's not going to go much lower than the cost of production. And fortunately, the supply is falling and the cost of production is rising. So the stability and the long track record of history, there's not a lot of risk in it. But Bitcoin has a lot more risk because it's so new and it's technology, and that you come out of left field with the oh, you can fork it, all kinds of stuff. So who knows what'll happen? But I think you own both, and like people ask me all the time, what should I own? What % gold versus silver? And I say whatever makes you comfortable. I said for me it's 50-50. But some people believe I got to have all silver because it has more upside, or they'll confiscate gold, or I need all gold because silver is not as valuable. And the same thing with Bitcoin. You feel what's comfortable. I got my percentages that I feel comfortable with, but there are plenty of people that'll feel 100% Bitcoin is the way to go, and some that'll think the stock 5% is the way to go. It's up to what makes you feel comfortable. But I have both. I have a lot more precious metals because I trust in their history more, but my percentage in Bitcoin is rising, and and with each passing day that it becomes more stable and immutable, that number is going to keep going up.
Okay, someone asked a question. What's Andy's speculation on the dollar price for 2017?
Of gold or Bitcoin?
Yeah. What do you mean? Do you mean of Bitcoin or gold, or how much the dollar is going to be worth in comparison to the euro? Andy, what do you think for gold? What do you think for gold?
I never give price predictions on gold because it's a rigged market. It's blindingly rigged. I mean, I spend my whole life talking about it. It's off the charts, and it becomes more manipulated with each passing day because the same reasons that Bitcoin has come into existence. The powers that be are terrified that their fiat Ponzi scheme is imploding on them. I mean, it is. I mean, the debt's exploding, and all these regime changes and the economies, and I mean, everything is going in the wrong direction. And so they are more and more scared than ever of the price going up, and that's why the manipulation is so bad. So at the end of 2017, the price of gold, I would say on the downside, not much lower than here. I mean, $50, $100, it could be $2,000 or $3,000. I have no idea. It really depends on what happens this year.
I've got a little bit of a technical question here. About proof of work and proof of stake. That Bitcoin is proof of work, but we've got these other coins that are proof of stake. Someone wanted to know, what do you think about the inflationary coins that use proof of stake? Now, I think you kind of did cover your views on inflation before, but just again, what are your views on the inflationary coins?
Yes. Well, it's a good question, because especially you're talking about ICOs. Now, about a year ago, I was on a podcast of a company that's actually right now in the process of their ICO, and they gave me some free of their coin. I'm not going to say what it is, and I have my wallet here, and every day I look, and there's a little more and a little more, and I'm like, well, great. I think I probably earned, I'm thinking of close to 10% additional than what I started with for doing nothing. And you know what I think of that? I think it's ridiculous. This is not interest in a bank. This is just inflating the amount of circulation. It's going to only hurt the value. It's, to me, the opposite of why I would own Bitcoin or gold or silver. Now, look, this particular one, for instance, it has a use case that they've created. They have an organization. If the organization grows and it becomes very valuable, well, great, then it'll go up in value. But the very concept of proof of stake is the worst possible thing for if you're looking at storage of value. It's what I want the least. What I want the most is what Bitcoin has, where you literally can't add more than what's been put in the code, no matter how hard you try.
And I want to stress what Andy just said. That is something I'm a hardcore believer in that too. I'm not into this inflationary thing. Let's have a set number of coins so we know what's going on and things don't multiply on their own. I'm on the same line of thinking as you there, and a lot of people don't get that. I've mentioned it in other shows, and they don't understand the importance of having a set amount of coin. Knowing because people don't want to buy into something where they don't.
Well,
there's a mystery amount.
Put it this way, Adam. I was just talking to someone recently. I said the two biggest enemies of mankind throughout history, aside from, let's say, disease, right, have been monetary inflation and religious oppression. That's it. More people have died because governments have destroyed currencies and because religious people have killed other people for the religious cause than anything else. Inflation is bad. In fact, I saw Tone the other day said something like, well, maybe inflation has been good for the dollar over time. No, it hasn't been good. It didn't promote technology. Inflation is bad in every aspect. It's been proven throughout history that anytime you inflate a currency, it creates wealth disparity, it causes a lower standard of living, and ultimately it causes the collapse of every single fiat currency that's ever been created. And we're talking about thousands of them. Inflation is very bad. It's bad for cryptocurrencies. It's bad for fiat currencies. It's bad for anything that purports to be storing value.
Here's a question, a very interesting question. Is there any value to a gold-backed cryptocurrency?
No. There's no, first of all, there's no such thing. If you have a decentralized currency, who's going to be doing the backing? It's bad enough when they try to back fiat currency with gold, as they've done in the past, because, as I said, the governments will destroy gold-backed currencies too. They did it here in 1933. They just took the gold away. In 1971, Richard Nixon said, yeah, we got a gold standard, but guess what? I'm reneging on it. No one could have the gold anymore. So even gold-backed fiat currency doesn't work, but at least the fiat currency is administered by the government. So if you had a gold standard, it would be the same organization that's storing the gold as is storing the fiat currency. Whereas in cryptocurrency, what are you going to have? Luke Jr. and the Bitcoin core guys will have gold in their house. They don't even have the Bitcoin. They're just running the code. So no, there's no such thing. It's not feasible. And again, you don't need to back Bitcoin with gold. Bitcoin is a deflationary store of value, just as gold is. They don't need each other. They are the dual destroyers of the fiat regime.
Yeah, I totally don't get that concept and how it would even be implemented, a gold-based crypto. I know other people have asked about that. By the way, we have over 160 viewers right now, guys. Pound that like button. So, a question that just came up in my head, what do you think about these cryptocurrencies that claim to be dollar-backed ones, that are pegged to the dollar, like Tether? What do you think about that, or what's the point?
Right, and again, I have 5 more minutes, but I will say this is something new to me, this whole thing, because it just came up with this Tether thing, and I honestly, I've heard it mentioned, but I don't understand it. But the fact is, again, it's impossible to peg a cryptocurrency to anything. I mean, there's no central authority to do that, so I don't quite understand it. To me, it sounds like if that's the case, that Tether is not actually a cryptocurrency, kind of like, Tone says Ripple's not a cryptocurrency. And again, a lot of people, I remember back in the .com days, there were companies that would just put .com at the end of the name just to get their stock up. Just like when gold was really soaring in 2011, say, there were stocks of companies that had the word gold and silver in them that were soaring. And believe me, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to, have names that make them seem that they're related to whatever's going up. But the fact is, I don't think if Tether is theoretically pegged to anything that it's even a cryptocurrency. So I mean, I obviously have no interest in any of these things, but there's no such thing. You can't peg a decentralized asset to anything. It's impossible.
All right. Well, Andy has got to run. He did tell me that as 2 p.m. approaches, he's got to be out of here. And hey, man, thanks for being on the show today. I do one real quick question. I think you actually covered it. What percentage of your portfolio is Bitcoin again? I think you actually
said 15.
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's totally awesome. Well, again, thank you for being on the show today. It was awesome. I did learn a lot. Everyone, pound that like button if you like that Andy was on the show. We'll get him back on again, definitely, because we always have a blast. We're always learning. You're always beating yourself. This is better than the last one. It's just incredible. So check out Andy Hoffman at Miles Franklin. Any concluding thoughts?
No, again, at Miles Franklin, Precious Metals, we've been in business for 28 years without a registered complaint. You can email me at ahoffman@milesfranklin.com, and please look for my article. I'm sure, Adam, you'll put it up on your site in the next, I would guess, week or two, where I talk about Miles Franklin accepting Bitcoin as payment for precious metals. And I'll make one more prediction, that the next time I'm on the show, you're over at least 7,000 subscribers.
Oh, wow. That's awesome, man. That's bold. All right. Well, thank you very much, Andy Hoffman, for being on the show today. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel. Let's get it up to 7,000. Like this video, share this video. I will join you guys in the chat. Check out the notes section below, because we do have very important links to all these guys, to Andy, to everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, everyone. See you soon. I'll chat with you.